It's with great pleasure I like to introduce the most prominent lawyer of the Sri Lankan community in Australia, an accredited immigration law specialist, Mr. Susantha Kadugampala. How are you, Susantha?
I'm well, thank you, Derek. Aibowan.
Ivan. Susantha, with the immigration changes in skilled migration, tell us about the changes, recent changes.
Yes, on 8th of February, the Australian government announced the intention to change the Australian skill migration laws and the rules as effective from mid 2010. And on 8th of May, the government has temporarily suspended accepting offshore applications under skill migration program. On the 17th of May, the government has introduced a draft skill occupation list. That's going to be the new skill occupation list coming into effect from 1 July 2010. Well, these changes are coming into effect from 1 July 2010. But from now to 30th of June 2010, we have a current skill occupation list where people could apply for skill migration. But people could only make applications under onshore migration categories, not under offshore migration categories as they are temporarily suspended.
So this is going to be very tough.
It's going to be very tough. The government is introducing these changes to bring people on skill migration program to meet the current economic requirements and the economic climate in the country. Basically, the Honourable Immigration Minister of the Australian government has announced that the skill migration program should bring people who are needed to the Australian businesses and the employers. Therefore, under the skill migration program, there are a variety of options, not only general skill migration. There are other options that people can explore. The government has given priority to employer-nominated skill migration program right now, and also the state-specific skill migration programs, state-sponsored skill migration program. However, it's going to be tough. Nevertheless, the government has confirmedly announced that in 2010 and 11 financial year, the government is going to attract 113,000 people under skill migration program. 113,000 skill migrants going to come or going to get visas in the financial year 2010-11. That means that skill migration is not finished. There are opportunities for people.
Susantha, in other words, the Australian immigration is not going to stop skill migration.
Yes, the government has a policy to continue the skill migration in the country. Also, Australia has a bipartisan policy. Both the current government, the Labor government, and also the Liberal Party, the coalition in the opposition, they both have a joint policy that the Australia needs skill migrants. Therefore, the skill migration is going to continue. And under the skill migration program, you're going to have people coming under general skill migration program, but the new skill occupation list is going to be only 181 occupations. It will be reduced from 400 odd occupations to 181 occupations. It's a huge trim of the number of occupations.
Quite a big drop, yeah.
Yeah, and nevertheless, there are opportunities under employer-nominated skill migration program for Australian employers to bring people, skilled workers, to work and be employed in their companies. And also business skills migration program. People could come under business owner, senior executives, investor category, and they can establish business in Australia and obtain their permanent residency. That comes under skill migration program. Also distinguished talent migration for distinguished talented people who want to come to Australia. So under all these categories, general skill migration, employer nomination, business skills, and distinguished talent, and state-sponsored skill migration, we are going to have 113,000 people coming to the country in 2010-11 financial year.
These changes, Susantha, will that affect the students in Australia?
Of course, the students certainly will be affected by these changes. However, if an overseas student has completed their course qualification in Australia and made their application for subclass 485 graduate skill visa under the current system, or obtain a graduate skill visa before 8th of February 2010, they will not be affected by these new changes. They could apply for their skill migration, their permanent residency under the current requirements, subject to they meet the other requirements such as the points and the English and the skill. And but subject to they made their 485 graduate skill visa application or obtained a visa on graduate skill visa before 8th February 2010. People who have not made those applications before 8th of February 2010, they are the students currently studying in Australia, maybe completing a qualification, but if they meet the requirements to apply for their skill migration, permanent residency, before 30th of June, they could still apply for PR under the current system if they are meeting the skills, the English, the age and the points. There's a possibility to apply up to 30th of June onshore in Australia under the current skill occupation list. Also, if they held a student visa, subclass 572, 573 or 574 on the 8th of February 2010, then they will be able to apply for a graduate skill visa, which is subclass 485, up to 31st of December 2012. So
That's giving them a lot of time.
there is a leeway period. There's a grace period for the students who are completing their courses before December 2012 to apply for graduate skill visa in Australia. That means the students don't have to go back, but certainly each student's case will be decided by their individual circumstances, the qualifications they're going to finish, level of English, and the day they held a student visa, and all those circumstances will affect the possibility of applying for permanent residency in Australia. But in general, the students are going to face a lot of difficulties in the changes due to the changes, due to the abolishment of certain occupations under the current list. For an example, the hairdressers, the cooks, pastry cooks, the bakers, community welfare workers, all these occupations have been abolished from the new skill occupation list that is coming to effect from 1 July 2010. The new list will have accountants, the IT professionals, the engineers, and a lot of construction professionals, the nursing professionals, medical professionals, and so forth. A lot of opportunities for professionals, and some trade workers such as motor mechanics and construction trade workers. So the opportunities are limited. It's only 181 occupations. Certainly the students who are studying in Australia will have to fit into these categories to be able to make the applications in Australia.
And let me thank you once again.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Dan.